Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll, was never the untouchable figure the world imagined. Behind the sequins, the stage lights, and the perfectly polished smile, he carried grudges, quiet resentments, and a careful tally of those who had crossed him. While he rarely let the public see his darker side, those closest to him knew the truth. Elvis had enemies, and some of them were more personal than professional. Take the Beatles. To the world, they were charming, innovative, unstoppable. But to Elvis, they were a shock, a wave of youthful rebellion that threatened everything he had built. When the Fab Four arrived in America, he didn't clap. He clenched his jaw. He saw in them not just competition, but a challenge to his very legacy. Their hair, their irreverence, their casual disregard for protocol, it all grated on him. He even warned President Nixon that John Lennon was subversive, a cultural force eroding the values Elvis held dear. Lennon's outspoken politics, his criticism of religion, and his playful mockery of American institutions felt like a direct attack. Where the world saw a visionary, Elvis saw a danger. Bob Dylan was another source of quiet irritation. He admired Dylan's songwriting, yet the nasal, meandering delivery felt almost sacrilegious to Elvis's ears. Dylan's stripped-down approach, his focus on raw message over stagecraft, contradicted everything Elvis had spent years perfecting. To him, the folk hero wasn't just different. He was a sign of the changing world that seemed increasingly uninterested in kings and more fascinated with poets. Jerry Lee Lewis, on the other hand, inspired fear more than disdain. Both were Southern boys with fire in their fingers, but where Elvis maintained control, Lewis thrived on chaos. Jerry Lee's shocking personal scandals and wild behavior were a constant reminder of the recklessness Elvis had worked to rise above. Their rivalry simmered quietly, but an infamous late-night confrontation at Graceland confirmed the danger. The wild one was unpredictable and volatile, and Elvis couldn't ignore it. Even legends outside rock irked him. Frank Sinatra, with his polished, velvet-smooth style, had dismissed rock and roll as crude and ugly. Elvis never forgot it. On the surface, they could smile together for cameras, but behind the scenes, Sinatra represented everything Elvis had fought against: elitism, rigidity, and a refusal to acknowledge the new era he helped create. Yet the most complicated and painful resentment came not from another star, but from Colonel Tom Parker, the man who controlled Elvis's career. Parker wasn't a rival, he was a puppeteer. He dictated tours, movies, and money, while Elvis's health, ambitions, and personal freedom suffered. Parker's dominance was invisible to the public but crushing behind closed doors. And then there were the impersonators. As Elvis's fame became legend, it also became a caricature. Every faux Elvis on a Vegas stage or in a hotel lounge reminded him of his own mortality, making him feel both invisible and mocked. These tributes, meant as flattery, became a source of frustration and quiet despair. Elvis may have been the king to millions, but his crown was heavy. The enemies he kept were sometimes living people, sometimes shadows of his own doubts. Beatles, Dylan, Lewis, Sinatra, Parker, imitators, each represented a challenge, a disruption, or a reflection of the pressures he bore in silence. Behind the glitter and the rhinestones, Elvis wrestled with rivalry, betrayal, and a world that refused to pause for the king. Even now, when we hear the music, see the impersonators, or read the history, it's worth remembering. The king saw it all, and he never forgot.